Hi, my name is Alice, and today I'm going to show you how you can paint a super realistic moon on a round canvas. This video is going to be a very detailed tutorial, and I'm also going to give some pieces of advice throughout. As always, feel free to pause the video, grab your art supplies, and paint along with me. For this painting, you're going to need black and white acrylic paint, a few different size brushes, some water, and a round canvas. Optionally, if you're too lazy to mix different tones of gray like me, you can also use gray acrylic paint. I'm going to be using a silver acrylic paint so that my painting will also have a bit of a shine. If you don't have a round canvas, you can also grab any shaped canvas, draw a circle in the center, and paint the background black. For the brushes, I recommend choosing a thin one for the details, a round one for dabbing on the paint, and a flat one for coloring large surfaces. To start off, I'm first going to cover the canvas with a base layer of gray. I'm using the largest paintbrush so it covers more surface area. Try to make this base layer have similar shades as the moon, but don't worry about the details right now. You can think of this as a draft layer where we indicate where the patterns on the moon are going to be, and we'll add on the details later on. Since we're going to be layering on more paint on top of this layer, you also don't have to worry about making this layer super opaque. Try to blend the different shades of gray together by using your brush to go over the same area a few times. It takes a bit of practice to make the colors blend together smoothly, but since this is just a draft layer, feel free to experiment a bit to get comfortable with painting. A piece of advice I find very helpful when blending is to make sure that you have enough paint on your paintbrush. If your brush is too dry, the texture of the canvas might start to show. Once you're finished coloring the base layer, start adding on large areas of dark gray. This layer doesn't need to be super detailed either, but rather than painting in large strokes, try to dab on the paint. This will help to create some texture for the moon. You can also use the tip of your fingers to dab on the paint and to blend out some areas to help achieve the right texture. Use a few different shades of gray for contrast, and feel free to go over the same area a few times to layer on the paint and make it look more three-dimensional. This process does require a lot of patience, so really try to work in patches and don't rush it. Now that we're done layering on the base layers, we're going to add on more details so that the painting looks more realistic. For this step, I'm going to be mostly using my fingers so that it's easier to achieve the texture that I want. If you want, you can alternatively use a round paintbrush or sponge. All you need to do is to get some paint and gently dab it onto the canvas. Make sure that you're dabbing it outwards so that you're blending it out, and try to not drag your finger on the canvas. This will make sure that there isn't any streaks, and you'll be able to achieve more of a grainy and bumpy effect like the surface of the moon. If you find that the paint on your finger or brush is starting to dry, wipe it off before adding on more paint. If you are using water to rinse off your brush, make sure that the brush is dry before dipping it into paint so that the acrylic paint doesn't get diluted and lose opacity. You might have to go over the same area a few times, and depending on the size of the canvas that you're using, this step might take the longest time to complete. Using a paintbrush, I'm adding on some more details, especially on the darker and more defined areas. I'm using black and dark gray to really emphasize the shadows so that the painting has more contrast and looks more realistic. I'm also using light gray to blend out the dark areas into the lighter areas. Rather than using large strokes, I'm using smaller strokes to blur and smudge the colors together to create the effect that I want. For the last step, we're going to use the tip of the thin brush to add on some final details. I'm using black and white paint to add on some bumps, as well as streaks coming out of these bumps to replicate the patterns on the moon. Finally, I'm diluting the white paint with a bit of water and hitting two brushes against each other to create splatters. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and if you also tried this out, you can show me your results by tagging me on your Instagram story.